Excited to bring in Dana Balash from WFMJ-TV in Youngstown. Got to chat with Dana several years ago when I was on up at the station up in Akron. We talked a lot of high school football, and today, I guess a little bit of football, but a lot of it's going to be off the field. Dana, welcome on to the show. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good, Sam. Happy to be with you again.
Thank you so much for coming on. It had been on my to-do list, Dana, a couple of weeks ago to check in with you so we could talk a little football, see what was going on over at Youngstown and Warren, and talk about some of the teams, but here we go. Youngstown Ursuline is definitely in the news. And from where you sit and where you stand, what's the chatter? What's the talk been in your neck of the woods? And what are people saying about this entire incident that allegedly happened?
Yes, it's funny. The thing has been going on for several months. In June, when they went on this trip, I heard something, and I think the majority of people in this area, were asking me what's going on. Well, I don't know, what's happening. But then all of a sudden, last Tuesday, this dropped with this lawsuit, and forced them to cancel the game. And everybody has an opinion on this. It's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation, not only for the Ursuline's family, the diocese, but also for our area. And certainly, we have to let the judicial system play out. They canceled the game last week against Farrell. That happened on Thursday. Farrell was looking forward to playing this game. They have a pretty good football team. I think they would get a good barometer of where they were. They're from Pennsylvania. They know very well what Ursuline's all about. And, before the season even began, Sam, Ursuline was considered one of those teams in our area that can make a deep playoff run and be a potential Final Four team. This rocks our area. And no matter what side you come down on, it's not a good thing. And, the 160-page lawsuit that came out last week certainly is very detailed and graphic. And certainly there are two sides to every story. 41 kids on this trip, 3 chaperones. I don't know what the policy is of the diocese. I don't know what the policy is of a field trip, but, I think in the opinion of many, that just doesn't look right when you have this. And this isn't the first trip that this team has gone on. This has been going on for several years that they've made this trip. They go to several camps down in the South. Coach Reardon, knows a lot of the collegiate coaches, and they go to these camps. And unfortunately in this situation, and again, it's alleged stuff that has happened. Last night, there was some talk. I mean, you hear so many different things, and you kind of, and you've been around, you kind of have to what's right, what's wrong. But I got notified about 7:30 that that these coaches were going to be suspended or placed on leave. And certainly this gives an opportunity for the other kids who had no part in this, to play a season. And look, the victim, you feel bad for everybody in this. And you've been around a long time. You know that these regular season games are precious.
Right.
And now Ursuline has 8. They have a bye week this week that was scheduled. Last week's game against Farrell. So that puts them at the minimum to qualify for the playoffs. So long story short, I think they're going to be happy to be playing football. They practiced last week. They were in the weight room, so they're going to try to make things as normal as possible.
Dana, I had heard yesterday, and again, we've heard a lot of stuff as you have over there too, but between 70 and 75 kids have left the football program the last couple of days. Is there anything to that?
I don't think that's true, Sam. I mean, they had 75 kids to start. Now, some did leave the program. Some were transfers in, that went back to their respective schools. Whether they had any part, who knows? But no, that number, it's, I'm curious to see, if there's 75 kids left, they wouldn't have a program.
Right.
I don't think that's the case. I think these young men who are not involved in this, want to play, and certainly the remaining coaching staff. And these guys have been together, so they're not going to miss a beat pretty much. The big question surrounding the players involved is what happens with them. And again, I think, they're innocent until proven guilty. And I would expect them to be on the field next Friday.
I did. Did you see where Austintown Fitch has switched out opponents here? According to a notice from Fitch, the homecoming game, which was originally set to take place September 28th against Ursuline, has been moved to September 19th and will now be against Buchtel. I don't know if.
Yeah, and I think there's just a reaction to, to some of this, and again, Sam, in this situation, Austintown Fitch, Ursuline, Cardinal Mooney, Boardman, and Warren Harding were in the Steel Valley Conference many years ago. Sometimes they didn't play each other. Was there bad blood? I think that bad blood is gone. But again, sometimes superintendents or school officials maybe get public pressure from their residents. And, so they made that announcement yesterday. And certainly I respect that decision. But I don't read much into that. I just think, it's something that they wanted to do. And certainly, they're able to do that.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you that I look at things 100 different ways now. The older I get, and my first thought was, Dana, they don't want to play Ursuline because Ursuline's really good this year. They just
and again, Sam, heading into the season, I mean, Ursuline was probably the best team on paper again to make that Final Four run. Last year they went to the state semifinals. They just have that tradition. Coach Reardon, was here, left for, several years and came back. He's in his 7th year now, and obviously he's done for the year. But they were the best team on paper entering the season from our area.
Oh yeah, and then we saw what they did to Steubenville, and I thought, oh my gosh, this team is loaded again. They're going to be. And then everything happened. Dana Balash is our guest, WFMJ-TV in Youngstown. Check him out on all the social media platforms as well. Dana, I've known Coach Reardon for quite a long time, and I got to know him really well when he became the coach at Camp McKinley, and we developed a really nice relationship. His family, his son Matthew, and the rest of their family, and then. I don't know quite exactly what happened there. I hear a lot of stories now after the fact, but who knows? So Coach goes out to Arizona for a couple of years. He's at Ursuline. I'm sorry. Then he goes out to Arizona. He comes back to McKinley, and then ends up going back to Ursuline. And I being in this business, but you develop friendships with people. You look at situations. You look at consequences that may be, and it's just kind of where do you go? How do you think, put your thinking cap on and go through stuff like this? Because I like Dan. I mean, I don't know what exactly happened here, but I like Dan and I respect Dan. But now this comes up and it's like, man, you just you feel torn a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's a situation. I have a close friendship. I've done some banquets for Ursuline, and certainly. It's one of those things, Sam, where your mind is going in different directions. I just think, in this situation, and again, being in the media, as you kind of just have to let this system play out. You have to let this play out. And I think a lot of people in our area, they want closure right away. And in a situation like this, that's not going to happen. I mean, I would expect, this to go into next year, 2026, because, these families that are part of this, that are named in the lawsuit, so to speak, they're going to lawyer up and, they have to go through this, the prosecution, is asking if there's any more victims that have come forward. And, I've heard there has been maybe 1 or 2 more that have come forward. So this is going to be a long process. This is going to be a process that's going to take some time. But I certainly think no matter how this turns out, Sam, this will have a long-lasting impact on the Ursuline community. There's no question about that.
I'm sure. What has the talk been in regards to the principal, Matthew Sammartino, the assistant principal, Margaret, and some of the other folks in the Ursuline the administration side of things? What are people your way saying about?
Well, and again, I think it comes down to, and again, I preface this by saying there's 2 sides to every story, and really we've just heard one side in detail. I know Matt Sammartino. I don't know the assistant principal that well, but I truly believe that if someone came to Principal Sammartino and said, "Hey, there's an issue, I think he's going to look into it. Again, if you read the suit that was filed last week, it says he appeared to have no interest. I don't really look at it that way. I think anytime that a parent comes in and has a complaint, I think any administrator, be it a principal or a superintendent in the public schools, take it very seriously. So I certainly think Ursuline took it serious. And again, when this happened, Sam, and then, June and July came, or July and August came, I mean, a lot of people were asking, what's happening, what's going on? And, was it being swept under the rug? And that's the terms that were being used to me. And again, we can only report, as what we're told.
Right.
And, certainly, last Tuesday, when this thing broke that, the suit was filed, I mean, I think it a lot of heads turned. But certainly we have to keep in mind, it's alleged, and this is one side of the story. But again, I think any institution, be it school or whatever, I think anytime there's a complaint like this, my guess would be that Ursuline and the principal and the administration there, my opinion is I would think they took it very serious.
When this first came out, Dana, I started thinking about some of the other big stories that have happened over the years with high school football, with incidents. And I remember the big, huge story that happened down in Steubenville a long time ago. And then McKinley had the pizza thing, and Massillon had a hazing incident, and now Ursuline. And it's like you try to follow and see how those situations ended up, and you try to see, well, are these comparable? And sometimes that's probably not even fair to do. But I wonder in the end how this is going to play out. And as you mentioned, I also see this thing going well into 2026.
Yeah, and I think every day, Sam, you're going to hear something new. And again, in this day and age with social media and all this, I mean, and being in the media, again, you kind of have to decipher what's fact and what's fictional. I mean, if everything that was told to me was true, I mean, Dan Reardon and the coaching staff, they wouldn't even be having a season. And so you kind of got to weed through that. But I think this is going to play out for some time. Like I said, I think it's going to have a lasting impact on the Ursuline community and the football program, because now, how's this affect, the potential students going to Ursuline, are parents upset? So I think there's going to be a lot of questions, and I think the administration really, really has a tough job to do over the next several months, maybe years, to clear this all up, to explain their side of the story, and we'll see what happens. But I think the outcome of whatever happens in this litigation will determine, a lot of how each side handles this.
Dana Balash is our guest, WFMJ-TV in Youngstown here on the Sam Bourquin Show. So, Dana, week 4 was going to be open anyway because that's how the season was scheduled out. So they're going to come back. Ursuline is against Warren Harding at Stambaugh on September the 19th. Do you think, and this is all just kind of looking ahead, if there's another team or two that said, hey, you know what, we don't want to play anymore, would at that point Ursuline have to think about maybe just not playing the rest of the year? Because heck, you can't really play 4 or 5 games, right?
No, and I think with the 8 games, Sam, right now they know that, hey, if we lose one more, we're not going to be eligible for the playoffs. Again, from the other side of that, would these schools cancel on their own because they don't want to play Ursuline? No one can answer that except them, but they would be taking a game away from their students,
Right.
And again, these regular season games are precious. And I think, now that this has kind of happened, I believe every intention, Ursuline's plan is to finish out the season. I know Warren Harding was making calls or having some feelers out there to potentially look for another opponent if Ursuline was going to, cancel the game. But with them putting, Coach Reardon and these other coaches on administrative leave, I think the intention now is to finish out the season. Now, the big question again is the players in question, again, we're innocent until proven guilty. So I would expect the players in question to be playing as well.
Interesting. Well, it is. It's a wild story, and again, I'm sure we will both continue to hear things that are believable and maybe not believable. But we'll just follow this story as close as we can. And I appreciate you coming on today, Dana. Again, Dana Balash, WFMJ-TV in Youngstown. Check them out on all the social medias. Has done a great job being on top of this story, and I appreciate you coming on. And hey, try to enjoy the rest of the high school football season.
I appreciate it, Sam. Always a pleasure to be on your show. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. There he goes. Dana Balash from WFMJ in Youngstown.